Hello, and welcome to the Simply Business Interview Podcast, a podcast created by business owners for business owners. I am your host, John Jennings. And I believe that most business owners are working way too hard for much too little. And one of our issues is that we overcomplexify things. I believe the answers are almost always within us or within our reach. I like to say that I'm a simple man with simple ideas. So welcome to Simply Business. All right, today we have got a great story for you. A lot of times we'll tell founder stories. A lot of times we'll talk about acquisitions. Sometimes we'll talk about exit strategy. Today we get to talk about all those things. So I'm really excited to have Paula Blankenship on the show. She's the founder and CEO of Heirlooms Traditions and Camcoat, excuse me. I pronounced that wrong. Paula, welcome to the show. Looking forward to hearing more of this story. Why don't you tell us a little about yourself, and then we'll jump into kind of how this all started.
Absolutely. But thank you for having me, and certainly appreciate being here on your show and talking to your audience, and hopefully can share some things that might be advantageous to listeners out here, and encourage some of them in whatever business journey they happen to be on, whatever side of that coin they may be on. So if you know anything about me, as you do, I started my business in my kitchen at 50. And I know most of your audience, or a lot of them, are Louisvillians, let's say. And I moved to Louisville. I discovered Trinity High School on a blind date. And someone told me they had their sons at Trinity High School and what great men that had produced. And I thought, too bad I couldn't do that for my child. And then I thought, why not? I'm the only one stopping that. So let's try and do something together and have an entrepreneurial spirit amongst ourselves here. And so we started this little business. And the reason I started it was I had some pieces in my home that I had carried up from my Tennessee home, and they didn't really look the part they needed. They were a little overly formal. So I thought, how about just painting that dining table and making it look a little more casual in this eat-in kitchen? So that's kind of where it started. I posted that picture on Facebook, and I was kind of amazed by the comments. This was all prior to starting the paint business. I put that on there, and people would ask me, how did you do that? And I was just kind of blown away by people asking me, how did I paint a piece of furniture? I just kind of thought that was common knowledge. I had no clue that people had lost the art of painting. And then it kind of made me go back through my mind. My mother owned a furniture business and owned furniture stores in our hometown. I grew up as an entrepreneur and around entrepreneurs, and watched her use furniture and painting pieces as a way to kind of step outside of her business role and let her mind rest. And she would do that for her own pleasure. So I watched her do that all the years, and I hated painted furniture because she put it in our home. And I was like, why don't you put new furniture in our home, Mother? And she said, well, I kind of like these old pieces. And of course, as a young person, you hate that. So today,
Right.
here I am, crazily walking in those shoes. So it's kind of weird. But when I realized people didn't understand what that was on Facebook, Facebook at the time was just an image. It wasn't a video platform, and certainly not a live platform at that moment. But
Mhm.
people asked those questions, and it kind of spurred the thought process of, that was interesting. I'll put something else up there. So I painted another piece. I painted my dining table, my big formal dining table, put all that online. Same questions. How did you do that? And it just made me kind of start going down that rabbit hole of, what about maybe I start painting furniture for people? That was the original thought. And we were going to make a website, paint furniture for people. We were going to buy knockdown furniture that was in a box, and kind of
Mhm.
do an a la carte offering of colors, and let people choose what color they wanted it to be, put it right back in that box, and ship it to people in those colors. So that
Hmm.
was where we started. Never ever did we ever do that.
Oh,
Started I started with the paint colors, and I made a color card and posted that on Facebook. All these colors that this furniture was going to be, and once I posted that on Facebook, people said, "Can I buy the paint?" So here you
ah,
go. And an old friend of mine from Tennessee that I had my sister had actually gone to high school with asked the question, could she buy some of the paint? Well, the paint didn't exist, but rather than saying no, I said, maybe. Yeah, sure. So I thought, well, that'll push me into actually making this be a real something. So once she asked me the question, off we went, and decided then to start producing a paint product. I did that and put the product on eBay, and wasn't long after that I started getting great reviews on this product that I had Landing Chemical here in Louisville make. And it was a wonderful paint product, and people just started asking questions and started buying it. And lo and behold, it turned into a business pretty rapidly. And we used Facebook as Facebook came along as a way to educate consumers about the product, and kept driving them back to the Amazon, or to the Amazon didn't exist at this moment, or it did, but the very in its infancy.
Right.
Started driving people back to eBay to buy it, and then made a website, and here we go, just the genesis of a
Yeah.
business. It's trial and error. I say my business is built on a lot of failures, and those failures paved the way to the road to success. So I kind
Yeah.
of took the culmination of all my business failures, however people want to perceive them. I had a lot of successful businesses through the years, and maintained my lifestyle for 23 years as a retailer in the furniture trade and design business, and was semi, in my world, I was successful
Yeah.
and doing well. So this was never something I dreamt that was going to happen for me. This was something I was doing for my son. Never dreamed it was a business that was going to be actually the culmination of all things for me. And here we are today. So
Yeah.
we have about 55 employees at this moment, and building out a brand new manufacturing facility in Taylorsville, Kentucky as we speak. And we are the largest employer in Spencer County, and just growing rapidly.
That's awesome. It's great. Such a great story, and man, ton of things to learn from there. one one of the ones that sticks out to me is I've seen founders who have an idea, who have this idea they're going to start this business, and then the market takes them another way, and they fight it. You didn't fight it. You embraced. It sounds like. Was there some fighting initially? Did you
Oh,
initially go,
sure, sure,
"Oh,
sure,
not
sure.
me"?
I mean, I'm 62 years old, so you have to know I am an old school marketer, meaning I believed in brick and mortar. I believed old school mom and pop businesses were the foundation of how products go to market. And so my first reach to selling, first of all, was eBay, because that was an instant website. I had no idea how to go out and buy a URL and start a company in that way. I knew how to buy a
Right.
URL, but how to build a website at that moment was a mystery and expensive. And most of them were very rudimentary in how they looked. I knew they weren't e-commerce websites. You couldn't purchase on them unless you did spend an enormous amount of money. At the time, I didn't have to throw into this. So I made my own website, and it was, again, pretty ragged. So the eBay avenue was the best way to reach an audience that was already there. So I think there's a big misconception today. Most people believe if you have a website that instantly you're going to do business. But the truth of the matter is, to drive people to the website is the cost factor. So you can have all the websites in the world, but you're not going to get people to go to them. So you have to know that highway is a crowded place. And if you're trying to do it through traffic ads on Facebook, Google, all of those things is extremely expensive to get people to go to your website. So to go to a populated, I made the best call probably ever at that moment to launch a business, was to put it on eBay, because again, there was already eyeballs there.
Yeah.
Whether you're a lover of eBay or not, it's a huge company, and
It had its time, especially. It's not as
oh,
big
it's
as it
bigger
was.
now than it ever was, and most
Uh,
people think it's a
yeah.
passe thing. It's
Really
actually is stronger than it's ever been. And
interesting.
it's a publicly traded company. The stock is always up, and it is a rival to a lot of huge entities that we know today. So
Yeah.
it's a growing thing, and eBay was the perfect avenue to launch that business. Of course, there's other entities now that you can launch
Right.
products, Etsy and so on. So but
Yeah.
Amazon has made the way for even Etsy sellers to put your product on Etsy and now be seen on Amazon. Of course, you have to give
Right.
them a portion of the sale, but
Yeah.
uh, you have to think about eyeballs and traffic. And today, the biggest competitor of all gaining eyeballs is Amazon. So
Yeah.
you got to play ball or go home. So you have to figure out if you have a market big enough, and do you have enough margin in your business to support Amazon. And Amazon's going to take 30% of every
Right.
dollar that you make. So if you don't have that in your margin, and you're not manufacturing to where you can make money at 30%, the truth is it will really net out to about 50%. So it's wholesale. When you sell on Amazon, you're basically selling wholesale.
Right.
And if you can support wholesale, you can put your products on Amazon. But you just have to get ready for that. My business has continued to move toward Amazon. This particular, actually, yesterday was the first day we hit $1 million in sales on Amazon in a month's run. So that is the first for us. So our traffic is slowly moving away from our website. So more and more people today, what do they open every day? They don't get up and punch in my website. They get up and punch in Amazon. So
Right.
again, you can't beat them. You got to join them. So
Yeah.
I'm all about it, and I'm scaling my business toward Amazon.
Yeah. That's yeah, it's fascinating how you have to just, in every 5, 10 years, there's major shifts
Right.
in the online markets. And
You have to keep your head
you
open. You cannot be, like I said, when we started, we sold it to mom and pops. And in 2013, when I started the business, that was my go-to, was eBay. I posted on it, on eBay at the time. You could become a retailer of our products. I
yeah,
put that call on the description, and at the time you could put an email address, and had about 305 retailers at the end of when I stopped the business. In 2016, we had grown the business up to about 1.3 million in sales. We could never break that number. Actually had a year that we declined in sales. And I was like, man, we're going to go broke. We had really kind of done a Hail Mary pass at the end there in 2016. And I was like, okay, we got to change something. We cannot keep employees. We can't keep doing this. I'm going to have to change occupations here. And I hate to, I really believe in this product. What do I do now? And I said, we need to get it. There was more mom and pops closing than there were opening. And
right.
they would buy in, set on the goods. I would drive customers through my website to their door, and they'd be closed, or they'd have 2 cans of paint. Customers were angry. So I was like, what do I do? I am in a debacle here. I loved dealing with mom and pops. The ones that really wanted to work was great, but most of them were doing it for fun. And I saw the difference there. So I thought, if I get into hardware retail, get into Ace, Do It Best, those are
Right.
dedicated inventories, people holding stock. They have a lot of employees they're supporting. This is not a for fun business. This is someone serious. Let's get into the hardware chains. So we did. We got the
Mm.
product into Do It Best hardware, and I realized it was very similar, except costing more money. Now I had to cut Do It Best in, give them a portion, so it was wholesale to wholesale
Yeah.
now. I thought this meant everyone would have access to our products. They could buy them. It would come on their weekly truck to their door. So the sales reps that were on the road talking about all the brands that were in the warehouse for Do It Best never talked about my product. They
Right.
only talked about their big guys who were giving them a little under the table money, if you just want to know the truth. But that was how it was working, little perks on the side. I
Sure.
didn't know that game, didn't understand that game, so I could never break through there. We got our product into a lot of the stores. But again, the cost of doing business there, doing and supporting those big shows, 20 grand for a booth every 6 months. Then you had to give a discount to retailers who already stocked your product on top of the discount you were giving them. You had to do what they call truck mail. You had to give all the people who
Mm.
attended the show an additional 5% or 10% to buy stock and set on more inventory. It was never ending discounts. Again, no money in it. So quickly realized this is another dead opportunity for me, what to do now. So couldn't grow out of that. Thought, well, let's get into retail. And I hope everybody listening to this is going to gain something from this, because if you're a Shark Tank, if you watch Shark Tank through the years, in which I have always watched Shark Tank,
Right.
I would see all of these fellas on there come up, and some excited entrepreneur says, I want to get into retail. I want to get into retail. And one of them would speak up and say, oh gosh, why do you want to do that? Okay, well, I had to ask myself this question, but I did it anyway. I thought, well, I need to get my product, because it's paint, into people's hands. I need brick and mortar. I need where people can see the color so they can make a decision. Okay.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
was my uneducated voice saying this. So if I could just get it where people could see it, they would buy it. So I got it into um, Camping World, 84 locations. And this turned out to be another ruse, another game. I don't even want to go into the details of that. Got it into
Yeah.
all their locations, put it into all their stores. And nevertheless, this was another deal that they didn't never put the product on the shelf. We couldn't understand it. And they were not supposed to ever sell it on their website. I have to continue the story because it's going to sound like something happened on my end, but I delivered the product under the terms, spent all the money on the POP for their end cap displays, all the things, put our product into their catalog, paid $10,000 for an ad in their Good Sam's catalog, all those things, sent the product to their door, and it never went on the shelf. And I was telling all of my folks on our Facebook group that you could find our products on the shelf at Camping World. We sent it to each individual store. So I just drove down to the Lexington store and said, hey, do you have the product on your shelf? And they would say, I don't know what you're talking about. The manager never even knew what we're talking about. So, hey, what happened to
Wow.
what happened to my end cap money that we sent and all that? So we could never understand what's going on, right? So several months passed, reaching out to the buyer, no response, no response. And she visited us, and they were from Bowling Green. I'd gone down and met them, and they'd came up to Louisville. We'd designed this stuff. And again, they were never supposed to sell it online, only on in their brick and mortar stores. So in our Facebook group, someone posts a message, hey, all heirloom traditions paint is 50% off at campingworld.com.
Hmm.
They put our products after they beat us down on our number on the internet. Never once did they put it in the store. Sold it 50% off on their website. All right, that taught me a great lesson. I had a purchase order from Tractor Supply getting ready to do the same thing to me. I tore it
Hmm.
up, and at the time we couldn't afford to tear that order up. But I walked out, and the girl in my office said, "What are you going to do? What are you going to do?" I said, "Here's what I'm going to do. If I'm going to make a good deal to someone, I am not going through these retailers any longer. I'm just going to sell it to the people who are buying the product anyway. If we're educating them and we're doing all the work ourselves and we're doing all the heavy lifting, why not just sell it to the consumer? Who is the
Yeah.
person buying it? If I'm going to make a good deal to somebody, I'm going to give it to the people who are buying the product.
Right.
I can educate them because no one's educating them when they go in the store anyway. The only thing holding me from success is how do they see the colors? We were trying to print a color card, which was never correct.
Yeah. It's never
So
going to work.
I
Yeah.
never going to work. So I had to find people who do color technology and actually sprayed on color cards. That was a big ask. That was $100,000 to give it away. So I had to make the painful decision to start producing a sprayed on color card that I was giving away. And I did it. I did it.
Yeah.
I did it against everything in my body, made that color asset, produced that color card, started shipping it, told everyone in our network on Facebook and in our private group on Facebook that we were going to sell consumer direct, and started building a better website that was more shoppable. And that first year we did 4 million in sales. The second year we did 10 million in sales, and it just never stopped. So
Yeah. That's awesome. And it just shows that you have to try a lot of things. And
yeah,
we always say fail forward, right? You
fell
find it
forward.
work and then you do.
Absolutely.
And that took a lot of guts to tear up that, Tractor Supply. Uh,
Yes. Yet, let me tell you why, because I didn't have money for payroll, but I tore it up anyway. And she was sitting there in a panic, you know. We had
yeah.
laid everyone off at that point right there. We had laid everyone off except my son, a fellow friend of his that was working from college that was home for the summer. This girl and her mother and myself and my husband, we had borrowed, thank God for PayPal loans at that moment. PayPal was loaning against sales, taking out a daily
Right.
whatever they needed to take out for loan repayment, and that PayPal loan saved our business. We weren't
That's,
bankable at any form. So
yeah.
if PayPal loans hadn't came along, we wouldn't be sitting here.
That's interesting. Let's there's a whole lot more to your story, and I want to try to get as much as we can in. You told me before that, so just share with kind of this challenge hit during COVID that then led you into a whole other aspect of the business, the manufacturing side. So share a little bit
Sure,
about that.
sure, sure. Well, in 2016, 16, here we are growing. Like I said, this is when we turned that camera on, and I told this Facebook audience that we're going to sell direct to them. We were in a business that we had, we from leasing. We bought a church down in Shepherdsville, quickly outgrew that space, and moved back into a leased agreement to a building out in, oh my goodness, in the Hillview area off the Gene Snyder. And I was thinking this building's going to do us for a moment. And all of a sudden we're outgrowing that building, and what to do now. So we were going to have to break our lease in some way, see if we could buy out the lease. And my husband found a great property down in Taylorsville, and it was an old 10,000 square foot building. It hadn't had a lot of work done on it, but it at least had property around it, so we could quit moving from these different situations as we grew, so we could never determine what size of building that we needed. So this seemed like an enormous reach for us, and this was right before, let's see, 2019 was COVID, correct? Is that when it kicked in?
20. Started
Late
late 19. Yeah.
2019. And we purchased this building in 2019, had to do a lot of remodeling to move into it, and started the process, moved into this building, bought the first piece of automation equipment, which was a filling machine that we thought was going to fill out all the paint, and purchased that big a piece of equipment at a trade show in Las Vegas. So excited, thinking this is going to really turn us into a better and more automated facility. We were implementing also SKU Vault, which was going to pick orders for us and help our
Mhm.
picking department, not have to go from paper. So lots of big changes were happening in this new environment. So we make the move, get in the building in February of 2020, and start hearing rumors of COVID. So
Yeah.
here was probably the biggest challenge that I ever faced, and I really learned a lot about supply chain right here. Here was the moment. So we moved into this building and had a huge hiring event, hired so many folks, everybody local there from Taylorsville, excited to not have to drive to Louisville to work. Had a great team of new people coming in, and our orders started to really escalate. And this was people preempting the idea of COVID. They were hearing about lockdown, so people started buying paint, which was a good thing. But all of a sudden, we had been shipping this liquid cleaner product called the Glosser, and it was kind of a miracle product for us that we were making, and it was a way to remove grease and oils from the surface, but it ate up the seal in the lid that we were shipping it in, and it was leaking on everything. So we didn't know this for a lot of moments. So we shipped a lot of packages. So I have one person at this moment in customer service. This girl is new to the job. At one point, I walk in and she has walked out. She's left, and never, unbeknownst to us, have no idea. I was like, "Hey, what's happening here? Jennifer's not in here." Well, she had left her keys and gone. She had 10,000 emails from damaged products in her inbox. Yeah. Well, at this moment, we also didn't have a software that was combining emails. So if you sent 10 emails, that was 10 emails about, she would have to open every one of those. It wouldn't combine them into one email
Mhm.
from you. So it was impossible to get through this. So now we have no one trained in customer service, angry customers wanting to know what we were going to do about this leaking product and all that. So it was absolutely a debacle. It could have really closed our doors. And at that moment, I was probably wishing it had. I was like pulling my hair out. I was the customer service agent now, trying to call people, trying to talk to them on the phone, trying to ease their pain, letting them know we are going to take care of them, and what to do, how to get through this, and also how to repackage this product. Now, COVID's coming on even stronger. Now the containers that we're putting our paint into have been cut off from us, even though we were buying tractor trailer loads. We had contracts to buy them. Force majeure for those products kicked in because they were being used for hand sanitizer. Now we can't
Mhm.
get the can that our product goes into. So now what? Had no idea that this was getting ready to happen, that our world was getting ready to really shut down. So now we're in a scramble. How do we fix the leak in the lid of the deglosser? And then what can are we going to put our paint into? And how quick can we get this stuff? So we went back to an old resource that we used to use many years ago. It was in a recycled plastic can. We found those guys to be credible. They started delivering us cans. That saved the day. It worked for both of those products. But
Hmm.
you're talking about losing some sleep and probably a lot of gray hair. Right there was it. And it could have really closed our doors if we hadn't handled that situation like we did, found a quick change and got the products in there. And then soon after all of that settled out, we got lots more people in there to help with customer service and answering the phones and what have you. Uh, then we were cut off from actually getting our paint made. And we're told that the resin supply was cut off from Dow because they had had a freeze in Dallas and had a roof collapse, and the plant was being rebuilt, and that all the resin allocation was going to the big three, to the Sherwin-Williams, Benjamin Moore, PPG, and those guys, that we would get what we would get. And outside of that, there was no guarantee that we could even get resin to make our paint. So it was a knowing moment, and again, an education for me to realize I have to be driving this car. I can't be riding in the back seat. I'm going to have to make paint here at some point. And I had gone down that in my mind and actually had done some work, had actually hired a consultant, which was zero, paid a lot of money for someone to send me someone that was an old school paint maker in the business, and absolutely was a waste of money. So tried every angle I knew and tried to look for folks in Louisville to help me, and there was no one. But continued on, and the idea came to me about maybe purchasing the toll maker that was making our products. And there'd been a death in that family, and I approached the owner, the widow, and she first said no, but later went back and approached her again and told her we would be leaving as a customer or potentially buying her. And finally got that door to open, and we closed on it January the 2nd of last year, 2024. And now we are the manufacturer. So that's
Cool.
how we got there.
Yeah. So you've gone from, from the kitchen table to lots of pivots,
Mhm,
eventually running it off your own website,
mhm,
which led to growth. Then you had COVID and the issues of supply chains. And again, another pivot, another situation. So now you own the manufacturing. So
mhm.
and I know you've got another chapter that you can't tell us everything about yet, but you're yeah, and you said your age. I'm not going to say it.
I don't
I'm a
care.
smart man. We're, we're close. We're close to the same age. We'll
You're
just
still
leave it at that.
going, John. You're pretty smart.
Uh, but uh, but so now you're looking at an exit strategy. So tell us a little bit about kind of how that shape and what you've done, what you're doing so far.
Knowing your audiences, business people, everyone knows out there that, at my age and my husband's age, he's a few years older than me. He is 60, so I forget, 66. So the two of us together, knowing our age, that we are not in this for the 20-year mark. There's no possible way. And how would we ensure the longevity of our business? So in 2021, we approached our accounting firm. At that time was Harding Szymanski in Louisville. And that firm put us on to an ESOP, a person in their office, and we started going down the roads of an ESOP. So we converted our business to a 49% owned ESOP trust,
Mm-hmm.
and JP Morgan Chase was the person who backed up that. And so my husband and I sold 49% to our employees. So very proud of that. And
Mm-hmm.
now today they're building equity in their own business. So
Right.
that's a great thing. And I would advise anyone out there, if you have a highly profitable business, to seek counsel on becoming an ESOP if you want to take some money off the table. And at our age, we needed the security of being able to take and being able to live with some freedom and some peace of mind. And it's not what you think. If you don't know anything about ESOP, when I first heard it, I thought, oh my God, there's no way I want this many partners. I
Yeah.
cannot handle
Right.
that. I can't handle everybody here telling me how to run the business. It's not that at all.
Right.
Especially if you do a 51%, you'll have a person that will head up the ESOP, but you don't even have to run anything by them if you choose not to, which we do anyway. But yeah, you are running your own entity if you're 51% held. You don't have to ask anybody about any business decisions you make, But if there was ever a change of control, of course, that would come under the fiduciary responsibilities of the trust, and that all has to be certified by that person that you're hiring.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Right.
that's a great thing. And with all that said, knowing that we were setting up our exit at some point, knowing that multiple of an ESOP is kind of on the lower end of things, because again, you don't have full control of your business in the eyes of a buyer, let's say. So we could sell out the rest of our entity to the ESOP trust. But we hold a lot of the notes. In other words, we're holding a lot of that as a bank ourselves. So we
Yeah.
are waiting to get paid. That takes several years, and the bank will be paid first, and then Craig and I will get paid our loans that we've held against the business. So that first tranche, as they call it, takes several years. So to do the
Right.
next tranche would take many more years that we are not looking to be the bank and worried about the business during, the end of our own lives. So that made us think about how do we exit? Well, we would exit in a sale. So we've had several companies approach us again because of our profitability, and we have made the handshake deal to go down that road with someone in the chemical industry who is a leader in acquisitions, and they are now putting together the data room and all of our information in there. And there's 4 major companies who are at play to purchase our business. So I'm excited to see how
Wow.
this turns out. So some great
That's
companies
awesome.
out there I'd love to work for. So I'll stay on for a bit as long as they want me, and then we'll see how that looks.
Yeah. That's incredible. This has been, I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I bet you are.
I mean,
Imagine how I
uh,
feel.
we feel like I've gotten a little snapshot, and I know you probably left out 90% of it, but there's
Oh,
just so
sure.
much. You've, I think the learning from you, and the learning I hope everybody gets, is that, owning a business is one of those things where you have to constantly be evaluating the field. It's like coaching a ball team. You're constantly evaluating the situation and pivoting and making adjustments. And good coaches do that. Good business owners do that. Congratulations on all your
Thank you.
success, and best of luck in this next phase. So
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Hopefully everybody might have gained something from that. Might save you a few pitfalls along the way.
I'm I'm sure they've learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked it, please share or like it on whatever platform you use. You can find me on social media. On most platforms, I'm John K. Jennings. My first book is also available. Your Baby is Ugly tells you about 10 truths that business owners need to hear, but often won't, and how to overcome them. You can find it on Amazon. Just search for Your Baby is Ugly. And be watching for our next episode, where I'll interview another business owner who will share their stories and insights into what it's like to create a great business.